Well, it was fun while it lasted. We had a normal, quiet day, just talking about the everyday activities we spent doing in the game, but now it's time to go back. It's time to go and talk about more changes that Blizzard has put through from the beta to the live version that are going to impact your goals, your plans. So, 2 topics of conversation today. One is going to be the socket from Ven'ari. When the MO was first introduced, in its almost fully completed version a few months ago, I went in the first time and it was jarring. It was very empty, there wasn't much to do, and the rewards weren't there. But Blizzard gave us the rewards. The item to increase your lowest item level conduit by 1 full tier, by 13 item levels, and then the socket. That was the big ticket item, the ones that people would have gone through the most. Now, of course, this is not going to be very, very relevant for casuals, for laid-back players, for pet battle masters, because they would rather go for things like the permanent upgrades to make your traveling in the MO faster and to not be as bothered by the ranks of the jailer, or the ones that want to improve their experience in Torghast with some permanent upgrades from there. So the socket wasn't going to be the more popular item for that type of player base. However, for the group of people who do care about this sort of stuff, competitive players of all degrees, of all kinds, because it effectively doubles the time you need to spend in the MO. Because Revered takes as much reputation as normal, friendly, and honored combined. So bumping up the requirement of reputation from Revered to Exalted is going to double your time, meaning you will be getting your first socket over a month from now. In fact, if you're not min-maxing the reputation very well, it's going to be over 2 months. Now, the only bright side to this is that at the very least, because you have to wait longer, you can stockpile more and more Stygia, which means when you do actually get to Exalted, you will have enough Stygia to buy at least 3 sockets. So it's going to feel slightly less bad. Now, on to the why, though. Why do you think Blizzard went to make this change? Obviously, the first answer leads to the same reasoning as to why they are delaying the raids, as to why they are staggering Heroic release and then Mythic release, and as well as delaying things like Renown and weekly quests after the reset. It's just an attempt to prevent rushes, to prevent excessive amount of hardcore grinding for the release of the expansion. This one, of course, targeted to Mythic Raiders and World First Raiders, right? If there was the possibility to get 20 of your Raiders, 1 socket or maybe 2 sockets, of course they would have all spent 20 hours in the MO to be able to get that. So I believe this delaying of the socket sort of tries to put it a little bit past. If you think about it, it becomes kind of weird because now you have a socket, which is one of the elements to power increase to your character, which is going to be essentially useless to the group of people who seek power the most, right? Because players in the World First race essentially will not care about this socket anymore. Because now, when they will reach Exalted, they will have already cleared the raid. So this socket will become pointless, and they can start stockpiling sockets for the next tier. So I thought the result of this change was pretty ironic. Now the second change is that you can apparently now loot high item level conduits from your callings. It's been a few days now. Many of you, most of you will have done at least a few of these callings, these new emissaries. So a while ago, in the pre-release guide I gave you also a helpful link, which was this one, showing you all the locations for all the drops of all the conduits. The conduits were split pretty clearly. You had the finesse and the endurance conduits dropping from raids and the potency conduits dropping from dungeons. It was pretty clear cut, right? Of course, you had the slew of green and blue random conduits dropping from world quests and whatnot, but the big, higher item level conduits were dropping only from this type of grouped activities. Now, before that becomes relevant, which is going to be at least 10 days, conduits can also drop from callings, apparently. People have started reporting on this. Initially, there was a differing of opinions on which type of conduits were dropping. Some people were saying just the potency ones, some people were saying just the endurance and the finesse ones, but turns out it's just all of them, completely randomly. And they can drop at up to 184 item level, which is the Mythic 0 default item level for the loot. Now, not much you can do with this information. Callings and the loot inside is still completely random. It's not that you can decide or try to min-max this piece of news. It's just an extra thing you can get now. Before you basically weren't even gonna get it, so now you might. Again, I shall repeat, this is not really very relevant. To anyone who actually cares about this type of min-maxing, to anyone who actually cares about the item level of your conduits, you will be getting the item level of your conduits in your dungeons and your raids in a couple of weeks. I mean, less than a couple of weeks now. So even if you were to get a few 184 conduits from your emissaries, or even if you were to start seething and getting triggered because all your guildies around you start looting conduits and you don't, it does not matter, okay? You will get them in Mythic Plus and you will get them in Heroic raid, normal raid before Mythic, so it's not that big of a deal if you don't get any. Not that relevant. But at least now you know you can get them. Just so you can be set up to be disappointed. That's the only reason I wanted to tell you. Now on to some lighter subjects. What do you see in this video? Apparently to some people this was a revelation. I never really reported on this since day one because I never thought it would have been a problem for some people. You know, we have had the garrisons for a while now, and when you can't use any more of your troops, the troops disappear. The troops get grayed out, you can see them, the slots are filled. But in this case, it was quite obvious to me from the start that, hey, there is some slots open and troops are still there, what if I keep dragging them? Well, no, apparently people thought, oh, there is 2 troops, I guess I can drag them only once. Why? I'm not sure. Nobody told me it's like that, but I'm just gonna assume so, and then get mad when people tell me I've been an idiot. So yeah, you don't have to say it out loud in the comments to get even more ridiculed than you should be, but just so you know, you can actually use all these troops endlessly. I believe it was even told you at the start, and even if it wasn't, you can see that the anima cost increases the more troops you put in. So that's the price you have to pay for your troops, extra anima. So now we are going to close out with one page from my diary. Today, or if you are from the US, yesterday, or in between, it was a productive day. I've done pretty much all of the heroics, a bunch on the shaman and the monk, half the mythics. They're getting ready, close to be done for the week. Druid is the only one that's been left behind for now. Torghast has been capped on the shaman, Torghast has been capped on the monk. So for the next 3 days or so, there's going to be mostly just dungeoneering again, with the Callings all done, only left at 1 per day now, and all of the quests completed and the Torghast capped. It's just dungeons and finishing the few things I haven't done with the Druid yet. Another day of dungeoneering in very low level, very simple dungeons means another day having to interface myself with some odd creatures. I mean, like, these people had the normal achievement for this dungeon and the heroic achievement for this dungeon. How do you go through this thing twice, or at least once, from heroic, and then through this entire corridor, constantly fucking up with this? It's just... You see, this is why I have to come here to you, to rant at these people. Because I am a nice guy, so at best I'm gonna put a passive-aggressive question mark in the chat, and nothing else. So you are my relief valve for this type of things. As far as other activities go, I still don't like them all. It might not be nice to hear, but if people were smarter, the mo would actually be fine. Unfortunately, people are people, so there are still problems with people joining groups without having a clue why they can see each other. There are still people rushing to every useless bonus objective, giving them half the reputation. They just see a mob with an exclamation mark, a dot on the minimap, so they just rush there. It's a pain having to do this sort of thing without an organized group, which I get to do on my main most of the time, but for the alts, since it's pugging, it's a torture. It's like herding sheep. You invite a group of people in the same group and they start spreading around everywhere. Why did you even join? Why don't you just come to your leader, your captain, that's supposed to lead you? Why are you going there? That's just a bonus objective for 40 reputation. Leave it. No, now you just buffed me. You put me in combat and you tagged me on that stupid mob, and if I stay there, I'm gonna get counted for killing the mob, and you're gonna drag me in your stupidity. Ah! Okay, calm down. Calm down. You're better than this. Let's close with a positive note. Let's go and close with the question of the day. Let's ask my subjects, my minions, my underlings, a hard-hitting question. Have you actually had trouble in Torghast? Because as I was going there in Torghast, I was seeing some of the chat and people apparently were having trouble. Even in trade chat, even in Oribus, there were people pretty mad at the fact that Torghast was hard. Now, I said this before, it's actually good that they capped Torghast at floor 3. I was in the beta, and in the beta at 195, 198, 200 item level, which is going to be the equivalent of, you know, Mythic plus 5 item level, plus 6 item level, I was getting beat pretty bad on floor 6. As in, the damage was pretty heavy, as in you actually had to use cooldowns, defensives, and play properly. Maybe even flasks, potions, and essentially play like a player with a brain. And that was on floor 6 with 200 item level. So now you're on floor 3 at like 140 people go in there at. So that's a legit question, I feel. Next week, of course, is going to be easier because the floor are still capped to floor 3. So inevitably you have gotten more item level. Come next week, so it will come much easier. But the week after that, we can come back at this question when floor 6 will be available. So we will see again how hard it has been. Now with this question for the ages, I will leave you. See you guys soon. And in the meantime, please be smart in the mo.